Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I'm Braden. That's Tim. This is Second Legacy, and thank you for stopping by. This is the 2A channel where we take the goings-on in the gun world. We bring it in and we analyze it. We add some commentary, put a little sarcasm and humor on the top just for you guys to brighten your day. And today is no different, but we have to talk about more executive overreach through the Biden administration, this time through the Commerce Department, Tim. The Commerce Department. These people will use anything with the word department but behind it to infringe upon gun rights in some way or attack them or something.
Yep. I know. I mean, they use everybody. They got the EPA and the lead in the ground. They got the, they just got everybody. They got ATF, FBI, and CDC. They're all involved in this effort to try to deny you your Second Amendment rights.
100%. But this one's an interesting one, though. This one leans a little bit more on the supply chain side, but not direct lawsuit liability. This isn't. It's annoying because it's actually a pretty big chunk. I mean, just to kind of set the table here, this is number 5. The Commerce Department, they've announced new restrictions on U.S. firearm exports. Now, this stacks on a story that we covered a couple months ago, back in October, if you recall, Tim, where they basically ceased all exports of firearms. Remember that? While they were reconfirming the rules. Yeah. These are those rules, right? So effectively, and this is something I think that we need to bring out here, number 10, jumping towards the end, the department expects the changes to impact about $40 million out of the $600 million in international sales that U.S. gun manufacturers make on average annually. So, I mean, this is like a 7%, 8% hit on revenue generation to the entire industry just by changing these rules.
Right. And I don't know if this is in the article. I haven't read the article. But they're saying 40 million out of 600 million of international sales. Okay. Of that 600 million, how much of that's military law enforcement type sales? And then of the 40 million, how much of that is military law enforcement? The reason I ask is because I think that they're targeting the civilian sector. Because in Europe and other places in the world, they don't have self-defense. And the guns that we export are typically sporting firearms, like competition firearms, hunting firearms, things like that. And so, they don't really have militias in other countries and stuff like that. They don't have a Second Amendment. So I'm guessing, maybe wrongly so, and maybe there's more information in this article I haven't seen yet, but of that 40 million, I'm guessing most of that is just harassing small gun manufacturers that have businesses selling, sporting firearms overseas, because everything else is already heavily restricted by their own countries.
Pieces or frames or receivers, or certain pieces that we can manufacture more effectively than others. Well, here's some of that information to kind of say where this is targeting. This is number 9. The changes include denying most export licenses to commercial entities in 36 countries that are determined by the State Department criteria to be high-risk locations for illegal gun trafficking that undermines, U.S. national security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, are they shipping them boats and airplanes too? They can get them across the pond. How does a firearm in South Africa become a national security threat to Texas?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a bit of a reach.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if they try to walk over here with it, they'll drown somewhere along the way.
Somewhere. Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm guessing that this is the sole purpose of this move is to harass medium to small size gun manufacturers. Because
yes, I think so.
Of that 40 million, that's not a whole lot of money in the grand scheme of things in the global business world, right? But you chunk that out to small companies that rely on $100,000 here and $200,000 there in sales. That's big to them. Mm-hmm. And I'll guarantee you that's who this is primarily targeting.
No, and I think that's a very interesting point, because there was a lot of to-do about this when they first froze it around, if you recall, a lot of concern about ammunition exports, and that we were just going to not have any more ammunition. That's always been a random hot topic that pops up and flags up every 2 months in our space. Exports of actual manufactured firearms, aero precision for lowers, things like that, right? If you were a small mom and pop shop, to your point, if you look at it through that lens, it seems to be more impactful, because if you're thinking, like you said, maybe a small shop makes $100,000 on a deal, or overall $500,000 in a year. Well, that's a big deal if you've got 27, 150 smaller manufacturers. You're not talking about something like Glock doing a military contract for Austria.
Right. Well,
to your point, like this is specifically smaller
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I'm just scrolling through the show notes. I haven't seen them until now. This is kind of what we do. Braden will go out and find things and just present it to me. I'm just scrolling through the show notes, and you have 13 and 14 in there, which kind of speaks to what my assumption was, and it looks like I was probably right. Number 13.
Well, yeah, it's the 13 and 14. That's the original announcement from October. So,
right.
Yep, the Department of Commerce restricted exports of all firearms to non-government entities in high-risk countries. So
Bing.
That's what happened in October.
Yeah, and this is an extension of that, right?
Correct.
So
this is the new rules that came from that freeze.
Governments get their guns, the people do not.
Yep, that's effectively correct. Now they're not Americans, but I do find it a little ironic that the same government, or not government, the same administration that is freezing and impacting the exports is the same one that left like $1 billion of military equipment and guns in Afghanistan just laying on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like it might be a little bit of a U.S. national security threat. I don't know.
Here's what I think. Well, they actually did leave aircraft in that instance. And we've seen the Taliban flying around them and crashing them here and there, but whatever. Anyway, but this whole thing definitely is meant to cripple the small business owners and the small manufacturers.
Yes.
And the thing that I don't get, and it says it right there from the October announcement, non-government entities are what's being targeted. Now, Braden, who's the number one killer of humans on planet Earth in the 20th century? 19th, 20th, and 20th?
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes and governments like Stalin, Hitler.
Oh, you meant like that.
Pol Pot, Mao. I mean, just go down to Castro, go down the list. Governments have killed more people with firearms than criminals have. But why is
historically accurate.
Why is it okay to arm the government? Like that's a good thing. Well, non-government entities, we're going to make sure these governments have their weapons, folks. They got to point them at somebody, and that somebody's you. We're not going to interfere with that. But we're worried about the criminal elements. Hello, the criminals run most of these governments, including our own.
A lot of them. Yeah, and the other part about this is directly to Tim's point. The non-government entities that they're talking about, they're not talking about a supply chain in which a small shop in Croatia, just pick one, in Croatia goes, hey, small gun manufacturer in the United States, I would like 4 lower receivers, please. No, the way that this would work through the supply chain is the dealers will talk to a distributor. The distributor will mass a lot of these things, put them in one big bulk shipment, and then have it dispersed through all of these smaller organizations across Europe or the Middle East or wherever these areas are that have rules that allow what they're importing, right? That's what's happening. The non-governmental entities are those distributors. So you're effectively cutting off everything underneath the distributor level by doing this, by changing the rules and basically reviewing the export licenses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because $40 million. Let's hit these companies.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing. I mean, this is just the angle that they take is we can't do anything legislatively, so let's just go ahead and punish them in the courts. Let's go ahead and punish them through restricting exports. Let's do everything we can to put the financial burden on these companies to try to force them out of business, because if they can't take them away from you legislatively, they want to do it through a bureaucracy like heavy regulation through ATF and the dealer network, or just outright doing things like banning exports so you can cut off sales to many of these companies that rely on export sales for income. And there are a lot of gun companies. There's thousands of gun companies in this country, and they manufacture stuff not just for the American market. I've been to Europe. I've seen U.S. firearms all over Europe in many different stores. And so that's who they're trying to target. So it's all it is a ruse to get you to, reduce the number of gun companies out there and ultimately just eliminate them and your Second Amendment rights.
That's it.
So
that is the payoff, because this amount of money to a small business, all the growing, burgeoning small businesses, if they can't generate revenue through export, then that's hitting their bottom line, which means they can't produce domestically.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is.
Well, anyway, so just more infuriating information of our wonderful government out there, just, trying to paint things as, look, we're trying to improve our national security and deny gangs weapons or whatever their claims are. But in reality, they're just trying to take your guns away. Thanks for watching Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.